Rodney is here, but one thing that I do need to do is to go back and I guess reopen the public comment portion. I seem to always forget that that we decided that the the county commissioners would be included in the public comment period. So, Butch, did you have any public comments?
No.
No. The only thing that I wanted to add was we received the report from Downstream Strategies on the third water sampling, and I didn't have it in the correspondence because I wanted to read the letter. The letter is dated February 27th, and it's to the Doddridge County Commission. On January 29th, 2015, Downstream Strategies collected a water sample in Middle Island Creek, upstream of the intake for the West Union Water Treatment Plant. The results of the lab analysis show no major concerns at this point about the water quality. There were no exceedances of federal drinking water maximum containment levels, MCLs, or West Virginia surface water standards. There were exceedances of the federal secondary standards for aluminum and iron, but these standards are non-enforceable and are for aesthetic values such as taste, color, or odor. It is not uncommon for West Virginia surface waters to exceed these secondary standards. There were detections of chloride and sulfate, but these values are acceptable for West Virginia surface waters. The field measurements collected at the time of sampling, specific conductance, pH, and temperature are acceptable values for West Virginia surface water. There were detections of gross alpha, gross beta, radium-226, and radium-228, but all values were below water quality standards. These values are similar to the values reported for the October 21 sampling trip. The values for the October 21 and January 29 sampling trips were higher than the July 9 sampling trip, but these are the same order of magnitude and may be a result of natural variation. Given the rest of the results, these values in themselves do not indicate contamination. The values from the January 29 visit are generally comparable to the July 9 and October 21 visits, and no significant difference in general water quality between the two sampling visits is noted. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you, Kendra Hatcher. The entire report is right here, and if anybody wants to review that, they can. Okay, let's get back to the agenda. I believe Rodney Trent is the next person on the agenda.
Yeah. Hey, I hadn't been in front of you in a few months. Everything's going good. I picked up 305 dogs last year. If you notice, but my feed bill's up a little bit. Harrison County want me to bring dogs up on Thursday because when I started, they had 7 employees. Now they got 4. So they are, but I mean, there's no issue. Good people to work with. I would like to get a couple of crates for the back of my truck. I still have that one old one I got off of the other ID, but a dog chewed a hole in the side of it, and I patched it, and they tore the door off and I patched it, but I'd kind of like to get a couple of big crates if that would be all right. I think they're like $120 a piece.
Does he have that in his budget? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
It's okay, I just need to find it.
Okay.
And I lost one crate when we moved all the animals, moved on wall bikes. I left one up for Harrison County and they lost crates too, so one disappeared there.
Happy Rodney, how many dogs and cats, how many dogs took the main society?
Lately they have been taken several.
Okay.
I would say they have got back on the internet. I took 2 up yesterday, and I took a pup up Saturday, couple of dogs up before.
In the canal, in patrol, needs of budget, so it's whatever's in there.
She said that there's enough in there so you can buy those crates and you know, if there's a...
How do I do that now? Do I pay for them and then turn in a bill, or how do you want to do it?
Where you can,
Where you gonna get them?
Tractor Supply is where you buy them. Because they have the big ones, and they're the best ones.
I'd say probably check to see if they will bill it to the county commission.
no, if they can call me, we can use the county.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't, and then I don't have anything else. But
Okay.
everything else is going good, then no problem.
How's your truck go?
Doing really well.
Good.
It's got like 24,000 miles on average, about 13,000 miles a year.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
you have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
Yep.
All right. Butch asked that we move, I guess part of item I, Jeff Harvey, Project Isaac and Contest for Students ups because he has a board meeting to attend.
Yeah, thank you for humoring moving me up just because of time. Not that anybody else's time is not as valuable as mine. We just have two things booked at the same time. So actually, that's why we don't have other representatives. That's why we don't have other representatives here as well, besides myself from the board office. With that being said, wish he was still here. I want to thank Mr. Heaster for the positive weather report, because being with the school, that's great news for the next few days. So, while we're here I want to talk to you again about Project Isaac. We have come to you for the past couple of years. Want to talk to you about that program. Want to talk to you also about what's called the backpack feeding program, and that's why I have Mrs. Brown here as well, so she could say a few words because she's involved in that. And then also talk about, we've had a couple conversations about a writing or essay type of contest that's related to the county commission, so have some opportunity to have some conversation about that. What I have for you is, these are our fund request packets, and they're in two. Who else do I need to give one to? I've given one.
The county clerk, yeah.
Okay, thank you. The top portion there is the Project Isaac. Oh, thank you. Now, some of those numbers are approximate, so the Project Isaac, for folks who don't know what that is it's an after-school and actually what's called an extended year program, which is in the summer for students of Doddridge County Elementary and Middle School. It provides additional time at school, after school, 4 days a week. We average between 100 and 125 students in that program, Monday through Thursday. It's broken up into 4 sections. Students get homework help, they get tutoring in math and reading language arts, they get a recreation time, and then they get what's called an enrichment period, where we try to do some things with science or social studies projects that kids maybe get to do in the classroom, but a unique experience. Sometimes we'll bring in a guest speaker for kids to hear or whatever, something like that. So what we're asking your assistance with for next year is just during the regular school year part of the program. The budget is right at $50,000. You can see in there that we have many funding sources that are funneling portions of funds to that program. And what has happened, and the reason that, well, first of all, you can see that of the $50,000, the BOE itself, we're contributing $20,000 to the program. Title I, or our federal programs money, last year contributed $20,000. And then you all contributed $10,000 last year to assist with that program. What is occurring in federal programs money for all schools is that last year federal programs received an 8% decrease in funding to schools in the state of West Virginia. So therefore that was about a $37,000 decrease in what we normally would receive. We're being projected right now, we're being told an additional 10 to 12% for next school year. So in the past 2 years, we're going to be basically losing approximately 20% of our federal programs budget, which is going to put it at about $68,000. So because of that, we've already had to take some RIF action and we actually had to reduce a federal programs position at the elementary school in terms of a teacher. So we're already having to make cuts in terms of how to recoup that lost funding amount in our federal programs budget. So that is the reason that this year we're asking for your support to increase from 10 to 15,000, because we don't have any other way to recoup that federal programs portion of the money that needs to go to this type of program. And it happens to be a requirement within the federal programs money that you use a portion of this money for what's called extended year or extended school day services. So it's not something we can just say, well, we'll just go pick that up somewhere else. It's a requirement that part of that money be used for that. So that's the reason we're asking for slightly more than we did in the past 2 years. Questions I can answer possibly on that portion before I talk to you about the other program.
The enrollment in your program staying steady?
Yes, sir. Actually, over the past 3 years, again, we have very solidly averaged between 100 and 125 kids. Now, for example, in the spring, what happens is as kids get involved in more things, it'll dip down to 75 kids. But then there'll be times in the winter where there'll be 150 kids. I mean, so it's like, it is a roller coaster based on whether other activities are going on. But that average number of 100 to 125 has stayed consistent over the past 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Will you take questions from the?
Yes, I mean, oh, yes.
Okay.
I just don't want to mess up any protocol here.
The increase in the oil and gas, the tax dollars from that, and with our school levy that we have, does that increase with the increases of the income from the oil and gas?
Yes, what's happening though is, like I said, is that we have to spend a portion of this federal programs money towards these type of projects. So the ability of the BOE to increase its portion as well will be in place. Yes, that's if that's your question, yes.
Also, any other questions? So you can, you had a couple other.
Yes, I wanted to actually, but my concern is your earlier comment, I didn't request that this second program be on the agenda, so if it can't be on there today, I understand. I can at least give you some information about it possibly.
Yeah, we can hear. I mean, we just can't act on it.
Okay, because it's also another request for financial support for a program. The second program that I want to talk to you about today is what we call the backpack feeding program. And this program, and I'm going to let Mrs. Brown comment on this as well here in a moment. This program has basically been created out of a need that we began to see in Doddridge County when I actually first came here. And that is, there are a portion or a population of students who their reality very much could be they leave school on Friday and don't necessarily eat much until they get back to school Monday morning. So the premise of the backpack feeding program is to provide needy students with meals and food to last them over the weekend or also an extended holiday break. So once this gets started, the issue you run into is it's not something that we can put into a general fund type of budget because of what the activity is. So this immediately puts the burden to finance something like this outside of your general fund budget. So therefore that means donations or grants or things like that we can come up with to support this program. The positive and I guess the concern is that when we started this program, we started at about 105 students, and that would have been a year ago, at the beginning of last year. Since then, the population of students receiving services from this program has risen to 172 students. Now, if you calculate that is roughly 14% of our student population in counting all three schools, our total student enrollment. I think 14% is a significant number, and that's something that should be somewhat concerning, and that's why I think that this program is actually critical, because if a student's basic needs of shelter, food, water, heat, someone loving them isn't met, it is very difficult for them to sit inside a classroom and worry about learning to add, subtract, multiply, divide, read and write. The other unique thing about this program, and the reason we hope you see this as an opportunity, is it's had to become a collaborative program. It's not something that the BOE can do by itself, again, because we just can't spend the money on this type of activity out of general fund. So we've had to actually collaborate with several other organizations. So I'm going to let Mrs. Brown talk to you about the grant that she's a part of, and then I'm going to tell you the other folks involved.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dodge County Starting Point Center was able to apply and receive a grant last year through Ross Foundation, and there's a $25,000 grant to go towards, every bit of it went towards the backpack program. So we've collaborated with Mr. Harvey and the other staff at the schools. We're in our second year of that. We were granted for another year for this school year. Now we're up for the third year beginning next year, and it just depends on their funding whether or not we'll be able to get those funds again. So it's a program that I think we've had such positive feedback from families and the kids, and we've taken the program collaborating together and been able to listen to families, what they needed, what kind of things. So there is family input into the program, and so we're winding down for our last $25,000 for this year to finish out the program, and hopefully next year we'll be refunded once again for the third year. So a big part of our grant depends on collaboration in the community, and we have a great collaboration with the school system with this program, and we're just looking for more buy-in for the program too. So, any questions?
Yeah, for Melanie. How do you define what kids need? I mean, what are the requirements of learning?
Talk about that.
Yeah, you want to go ahead?
That is a referral process or a self-application process. Any teacher in Doddridge County or employee, if they see a student they believe in need, can make a referral. At that point, then there is an application process that's not intrusive. It's not meant to be like, I need to know how much money you. It's not about that.
Okay.
But all parents have involvement in terms of whether they want to be in the program or not. It's not something that's forced on anyone.
It's voluntary.
Actually, I think the beauty of the program that we've seen over 2 years is actually people are using it as a resource, and they're not taking advantage of it, because we have many families come in and say, my dad now is back employed, we don't need this anymore, we thank you, and we take them off the list, and then actually we can move kids and families on and off the list as needed. So it's not something that the numbers have grown just because everyone keeps trying to take from the program. So I think that's a very important note as well. Funding source wise, this current year we had the Starting Points grant for $25,000. We received a Family Resource Network or FRN grant for $8,000. There is one avenue of federal programs money that we are allowed to use legally. It is money that we allocate through federal monies that are allocated for homeless. So any of the students who are in our backpack program that are identified in the homeless category, we can spend some of that money on supporting them in this, but that's very specific of which kids can be supported. Local contributions. Did I win something?
That's,
It's in here. Well, nobody's here.
I'm sorry, I'm on fire.
Does this mean I'm burning it up?
we've been having problems with the fire alarm system, so I guess we'll just have to.
Sure. Can I keep going? Is that okay with you?
Yes.
All right. Local contributions and fundraising this year had to be $23,000. And that's where we've run into the difficulty. Not that it's not been worthwhile, is that we've had to count on going out and kind of requesting money from churches, local individuals that do know about the program. Basically have folks who support it every month with $50, $100, $200 contributions. But that's been where it's been difficult to maintain, because that's money that as you get it, it's a blessing, but it's hard to count on that because you're not sure if it's going to be there or not. Our school counselors have also done fundraisers at some of the high school basketball events and tournaments where they went in, and we've actually included kids from some of the local organizations, 4-H, for example. They went in and worked the concession stand and donated what they made in the concession stand to this program. So there's a lot of collaborative involvement in this program. What we're projecting for next year is on the right side of what I gave you, and that is again the $25,000 starting points budget. We will resubmit the $8,000 FRN grant. Federal programs will be about $4,000. And then there's a Parkersburg Community Foundation grant that's available. We're going to apply for that for $10,000. And then what we're asking the county commission to consider is supporting this program in the amount of $10,000 as well. That would reduce the fundraising amount to about $3,000 to $5,000, which we think is manageable. The $23,000 is we're going to come up about $6,000 short. So our concern is how do we finish this program with kids in need in May and June. But we're still working on that. So that is basically what our fund request, the second fund request is.
Okay, and you have submitted apparently both of these?
Yes.
Two? Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's part of our budgeting process.
Yes.
And we will consider those
Sure.
at the appropriate time.
Questions I can answer on?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do these kids get their food? This backpack feeding program?
Good question. Something I should have covered. Sorry, I didn't
That's
ever
okay.
do that. What happens is we originally were working with a food vendor that Starting Points was purchasing, and they were trucking the food down here. Was it once a month?
Yeah, it was through Mountain. It's gone.
Mountain State Food.
Yeah.
Mountain State Food Bank?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay.
So, and that was working okay. The problem was we had to physically go get it. We had to haul it to the board office. We had to store it at the board office. Then on Thursday afternoons, all the counselors came to the board office, and we actually went out in the hall, as many people as we could grab at 1 o'clock, and we packed the food bags to send home. And then the counselors took them to the buildings and distributed it to the students.
The kids took them home?
That's
Yes.
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Since then, we've been able to work with another food vendor that actually brings them to the schools for us, prepared in bags. So it's really cut a lot of the extra that was difficult for us sometimes for us to juggle, because you couldn't control if a counselor had an issue at a school, they couldn't come do it.
Yeah.
So it really helped by delivering it to the school, making it much more manageable.
Now, this goes on all summer when there's no school?
This does not currently go on in the summer when there's no school. This is
Okay.
currently just an activity we are funding during the school year.
Okay.
Now, are you asking, I mean, obviously you're asking for next fiscal year, which
Correct.
begins July 1st.
Correct.
Are you requesting any monies for this, or have you got sufficient monies for this year?
We were not technically requesting money because I thought that process had already passed and we had missed that window. But we are not going to have enough funds to finish the school year.
Okay. I would say put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that we still have some funds available that we can allocate
Okay.
for the current
And
fiscal year.
that would be a huge relief, because that is weighing as to that date ever comes closer whenever you realize you can't do it another week.
Right.
And I'm glad that you all hopefully see this as an effort to collaborate with the schools and another organization, but at the same time, you know that you're helping a very significant portion of students.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
That's okay. I mean, I was just going to say that, you know, we take the hunger for the county residents, whether they be kids or adults, but we take that very seriously. So we will definitely consider that, put it on the agenda for next meeting,
Okay.
and we will.
Do I need to request that, or?
Well,
Okay.
you're already on the agenda. Just let us, you know, what you will need to do is tell us how many dollars in funds that you will be looking for.
Okay. And we'll go back and calculate. We'll only ask for whatever it is we need to get by. We're not going to ask for anything additional.
Okay.
So the third thing then that's not related to requesting funding assistance is we had talked, actually I think it might have been last year at this time, about doing some type of writing project or writing or essay contest that related to county government or county commission. And I just wanted to kind of get your feedback on where if you still saw that as something you all were interested in doing, if you had any more discussion about it, what we could do.
I know that, and I just received that the County Commissioners Association has a statewide contest, and it's for 8th graders.
Okay.
And I don't know that we could, because it was announced in the previous County Commissioners Corner News, but you know, we wouldn't have to make it at this point part of the state program or project.
Okay.
We could do it as a county project and then coordinate with their schedule so that in the future it could be. There's several counties, a lot of counties in the state that do this, and it's my understanding that it is a program that students can interview, they can write about the county commissioners and what they do, and what they do for the county, and what the county commission does for the county.
Okay.
And I think that, personally, I think it's a real good idea because, as you will note, and I don't have anything against older people. Obviously, I'm one of them. But it would be nice to get younger people, which the parents of 8th graders or whatever would tend to be younger people. But it would be nice to get younger people at least familiar with. And as we all know, here in Doddridge County, what your kids attend, you attend. If it's sports or different programs, plays up at the high school. So that would be a very good way. And my thought anyway is you have 3 winners, first, second, and third,
Okay.
and then you have a county commission meeting where they win the right to be a county commissioner for a day, and we could have some issues that they would debate and or vote on, and my thought is that meeting we could hold upstairs where we have plenty of room, and I think you're going to draw lots of parents into that meeting. We could hold it of an evening.
Okay.
So that was my thought,
Is this something that you all are feeling like you would like to see happen in the spring here as we get closer to April, May, or are you talking about planning? Either one is fine. Are you talking about planning for next year, or would you like to see it happen this year?
What's best for you? I mean, I'd like to see it now.
That's fine. I mean, because basically what we can do is we can incorporate it into one of our practice writing activities for Smarter Balance Assessment, which is now being called the West Virginia General Assessment of Skills.
They're trying to shut you off.
I think the third time I'm out.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, we can look at that. The way we've done things like this in the past is we've had the teachers narrow down the essays into the top 6 or 7 or whatever,
Right.
and then instead of you all having to go through 75 essays, the folks who are evaluating it for quality of writing
Right.
would narrow them down and then give you something to make the final selections.
Okay.
Is that something that would be?
Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah.
Is there anyone I can get more information about so we can mimic as close as possible what this competition?
You can contact Vivian Parsons, and I'm sure that we've got. I'm sure that we've got a number here Yes. The number is 304-345-4639.
Okay?
And either Vivian Parsons or Megan Stroop, I think is her last name.
So
But-
it would be okay since I'm going to come back for the other next meeting, to try to have something ready for you all to consider as what we would do?
Yeah.
Is that
That would be
okay?
great.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
What,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know who to address the question to, but as an educator, I would like to see that it would be extended to more than just the 8th grade. Maybe we could have, it doesn't have to be every year, but maybe do it at least like 8th and 10th or something
Sure.
along those lines.
Sure. I mean, if we're going to do our own thing, and we're not trying to meet the criteria of that, we can do whatever. I mean, we
Right.
can open it up to as many grade levels as we want. You all just have to be willing to have winners at different grade levels
Right.
if we do that. So, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, what I'll do is I'll ask our senior English staff, I'll kind of spread it around grade level wise and see, because a little bit of it will depend on if we get someone who has some interest, they'll obviously do a little bit better job of promoting it with kids.
Right.
So let me see who I can get interest from. We'll definitely do it in 8th grade because it can be part of West Virginia studies, West Virginia local government, so it would tie right into standards. That would make the most sense. Okay?
Sounds great.
Any other questions?
very good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.